Indiana Jones, Indiana Jones, Indiana It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. The Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to Anything Goes. This is usually the Patreon-only bonus series from the makers of Indiana Jones Minute. I'm one of those hosts of Indiana Jones Minute. I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm another one of those hosts of Indiana Jones Minute. I'm Pete Mummert.
And I'm the intern of Indiana Jones Minute, Jerry Porter.
After all these years.
Yes.
What are you doing wrong that you're still an intern?
They'll never tell me. That's the whole thing. It's how to. No. You're doing really well. Listen, we have an open door policy here. If you have any questions, feel free.
You can leave anytime you want. It's an open door policy.
Exactly. It's like at the end of the one movie, it's like, do you think it'd be possible if I could get a raise? It's one of those classic, oh, well, listen, it's not that you don't deserve one. It's just that, this is a difficult time for this sort of movies by minute industry. It's just not in our budget.
Yeah, we'd love to give you a raise. But... I invented a new word. I invented rucksuckle last season, and I was thinking maybe, I could be made like a regular host instead of just the intern.
It's those were all wonderful ideas, and they got the appropriate yucks, but we just need something a little more.
We love being in the Jerry Porter business. But we like keeping you right there where you are.
Wait a minute. I got fired by Borders, those suckers. And you got fired too, you Tommy Cod. You did. What'd they say to you when you got fired, Tommy?
From Wait, did I work at Borders?
No, you got let go at, was it Houghton Mifflin?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Or Mifflin Houtland, or what did they say? They ushered you all into a room.
Yeah.
And they told you, they gave you this speech, didn't
they all stuck us in the airlock, and they said, it's not you, it's us. And they let us go.
You said people were crying and the whole thing.
Yeah. And you know what's horrible? I turned to my friend Ryan, after the big, Jettison speech was over. I was like, so we could go to the midnight show of Crystal Skull, because we were planning on going to Crystal Skull together.
It's amazing.
And it saved the evening.
I remember very specifically, as they were firing me, I was peeling a banana very slowly. and they said, so you're no longer going to be working. And I went, and I opened a Mountain Dew. And I was like, please continue.
Sorry.
while I relish this Mountain Dew.
Well, see, the good news here, Jerry, is we want to keep you working. We just don't want to pay you anymore.
Yeah. And you know what? I'll fall for it. I'm that stupid.
That should be a goal on Patreon, speaking of Patreon. If we get to a certain amount, we can start paying Jerry a little bit.
No.
And Pete and I won't hog all the riches for ourselves.
Yeah. Let's not go overboard here.
No, the thing is, we're never going to reach it. Well, it has been a robust Patreon season. However...
Yeah. Pete and I are doing great, Jerry, but we're just not quite there yet.
With the increased cost of electricity...
I pictured Jerry out there, looking at the plans for his backyard pool. Anybody come with a bonus check today?
So close. Anyway, yeah, this is normally our Patreon show, Anything Goes. This is for people who support us over there on Patreon at patreon.com/Indiana Jones Minute. But we thought since we haven't been in your regular feed ears in a while, we'd toss this out there as a bonus. This is, if you're unfamiliar with the Anything Goes show, we've been covering other movies, if you can believe that. We spent, 11 episodes on Jaws?
Yeah.
11. That sounds ridiculous. Why don't we just do 10 or 15? Why do we end up with 11?
It was the perfect amount.
I think that's exactly
right.
Not
one too many, not one too few.
Yeah, we're not.
I feel like we're
held
polyamorous. Yeah, we're polyamorous here. It's not a big deal if we do other movies.
Right.
Yeah.
So we had plenty of fun controversies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know what I keep thinking about? I almost shouldn't name the controversy because I want people to check it out and find out what but there was one on here that is completely unresolved in Jaws. I think it's in the second episode of Jaws. And it's unresolved because both sides both ways of reading the scene work perfectly.
Yeah.
They're airtight,
Yeah.
but they're two different things completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what's fascinating, I'm thinking it has to do with the famous quote too, kind of he's a nuts on the subject.
It's related, you're right.
It's not
Yeah.
it's not that quote, but it's related to.
Yeah. So we did 11 episodes talking about Jaws from stem to stern, and then we did an episode about, most recently, about issue 1 of The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones, the original Marvel comic from the 80s. And now, for you, we're about to launch into Close Encounters, and who knows how long that'll take, because the movie's awesome, and it bears some chatting about. So yeah, this is you're getting this in our regular Indiana Jones Minute feed today. And if you love it and you want to hear more, we'll be dropping, as the kids say, episode 2 this weekend on the in our Patreon feed. So if you want to hear that, please come join us over at patreon.com/Indiana Jones Minute. And you can...
Or at indianajonesminute.com/Patreon.
Right. So even our dyslexic fans can do it, either way. We're equal opportunity entertainers.
And offenders.
And offenders, yes. Thank you. Speaking of someone who's probably a little bit dyslexic, I am not offended.
Are you really? Are you a
I
little
think so.
dyslexic?
I do the thing where if I'm reading a number, I think I only do it with numbers. If I'm reading a number, I will see it the right way, and I will write it the right way, but I will think it backwards. Yeah. Does that count?
It's gotta be yeah. How do you pick like which gas station you go to? It's like when you see 2 on a street corner. Do you always choose the higher one?
No, I do whichever is a right
Lower
turn.
one?
Whatever's like
Yeah,
easier
that's
to
the way
get
you
out.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there you go. You did think about it.
See, I made my affliction work for me. But yeah, what else do we want to say about this? We're normally at this point we would be thanking all the beautiful people who help support us, but we're gonna skip that part today, just because we want to get right to the good stuff. Our chatting about Close Encounters, which I love and Pete loves and Jared
It might be.
likes a lot.
Yeah. It might actually be my favorite Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's pretty close with Raiders.
Yeah, you got Raiders, you got Jaws, you got Close Encounters. It's hard for me to choose.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the third of those 3. It's the bronze medal for me. But certainly, I mean, bronze is you're placing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're placing.
It's still weird to me that you were so into, like, you grew up with Jaws, and that's so much a part of your life, Jer, but you somehow not missed, but like Close Encounters just didn't become part of that for you. That's weird to me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I had like I said, I had the golden T-shirt with the decal on it of Devil's Tower. Yeah, it was amazing.
That's an awesome shirt.
It was an awesome shirt. I mean that's my own shortcoming, or my parents, of course.
Yeah, let's blame them.
Yes. So
After your dad took you to see Jaws, your mom was like, "You are never taking Jerry to see another movie."
yeah, exactly.
This one's got aliens in it. Who knows how horrifying it'll be. Well, yeah, please listen to this. Please enjoy it. Also know that behind the scenes, we are hard at work on that other Indiana Jones movie, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which, life takes a long time sometimes, and it's hard to podcast during that. So we haven't gotten started on that as fast as we would have liked to, but we're going now, and it'll be coming to you sooner than later. How's that for vague?
Great.
But yeah, in the meantime, we're tossing you this, and I'm sure we'll have other treats for you along the way before we get going on Last Crusade. But yeah, in the meantime, enjoy this. Close Encounters. You know it and you love it. You love it more than Jared does, that's for sure. Yeah.
That's why you're not the intern, listener.
Yeah, you're a full employee. Thank you.
So we started Jaws with talking about how the 3 of us had sort of not necessarily holes, but spots in our Spielberg filmography that we hadn't seen quite as much as others or didn't know quite as well. And I had seen Jaws less than you guys. And I think we're doing next. Now we're going to be talking about Close Encounters of the Third Kind, one of my very, very favorite movies, and one that Jerry, you hadn't seen since 1977, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I haven't seen Close Encounters in it was 40 years. So
That
this
is really
40th
weird to me.
Yeah, well, I probably saw it with you, Tommy, like whatever, maybe I saw it in like 1985 or something. I haven't seen it in forever. What I remember most about Close Encounters is I had the gold iron-on T-shirt that I wore every day until I
nice.
smelled into I smelled like banana mushed kid hair. And I wore that shirt every single day. It was gold and it said Close Encounters and it was an iron-on and it was amazing. That's what I have to offer here.
That's plenty. That's
That is
beautiful.
plenty. And we did all just recently see the 4K restoration big screen release that came out a couple weeks ago, I believe.
Yeah.
It
was pretty awesome.
Yeah, for me, it was incredible getting to see it again on the big screen, and it looked gorgeous. Like the print was absolutely gorgeous.
What was the 4K part?
It's like super high def, like super high definition, high resolution.
All right.
Which is, that's something I do not understand with movies from any time before like the 90s or something. Like
especially this
the
one.
def is just going to show you
how grainy
bits. Which is fine. I kind of want to see that, but it's not like it's going to be super sharp or something.
Well, it looks like one of those Atari games.
It's all pixelated.
Yeah. So.
It looks just as grubby as it did in 1977 on opening day.
It was weird seeing, though, I when I was watching Baby Driver, they had a trailer for Close Encounters, and it was weird seeing a modern trailer for this movie.
In a world.
Yeah.
Give my regards to King Alien. He punches the alien in the face.
Yeah.
It was like a big screaming da-da-da-da-da at the end. Screaming at you.
What's weird about Close Encounters for me is it points out I'm such like a huge, like anti going back and redoing stuff and prequels and special editions and everything. It just gets my dander up and it pisses me off. But with Close Encounters, I'm absolutely fine with there being 3 versions of this movie and seeing the inside of the ship and everything. Like I like all 3 versions of it.
Yeah.
And I don't have, sometimes I'll miss, oh, wait, this doesn't have that one. This doesn't have that part. Or, oh, they put in this, it's all like a good movie and you just sort of seeing different parts of it maybe at different times. But, I like childhood forgives like anything. Like childhood just glosses over any like, cranky, jaded baloney that I've got going on now. It's just like, Star Trek the Motion Picture is brilliant. There's 7 versions of Close Encounters. They're all great.
And this had a good excuse for having a special edition and for a director's cut that I think a lot of movies don't have. Mm-hmm. And when they filmed this movie basically saved Columbia Pictures, the studio. Like the studio was right on the verge of bankruptcy, and they got Steven Spielberg to make this, and they basically banked the studio on whether this movie would be a success or not. But part of the problem with that is that it didn't give him quite the budget that he needed, and I think he didn't have quite the control he wanted. And so there were things that he really wanted in the movie that he ended up going back in later and putting in.
Yeah.
And he felt rushed.
And he couldn't cut it right, like the way he wanted, right?
Yeah. And they were rushing him because they wanted him to finish in 1977, so that because they were in such financial straits, dire straits. And so they kind of rushed him to get it finished, and he did, and it did save the studio, but he felt like he didn't do the movie justice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those mashed potatoes are canned.
Yeah.
I can tell.
He went back and had his mom make a big, homemade batch for the redo.
Yeah. But I think the other reason I think I appreciate that he went back and did it is this movie was more than any other movie he ever did his passion project. Like this was the project he wanted to do since he was a kid. And this was the project that got him into filmmaking.
And it's weird. This is the only movie I think I could be wrong about. I think this is the only one that he has a screenwriting credit for.
Yeah,
or definitely like the only screenwriting, like that is written by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, And it's
because he's got a huge hand in most of his movies.
Yeah.
But like, this is just, I sat down at a typewriter and I wrote the screenplay and now I'm going to direct it. My name is Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. And he actually made it. Like, he actually wrote it, or a lot of what became this, back when he was a teenager. And he actually made a movie called Firelight that was basically a proto version of this movie. And it cost him, he said, $500 to make it. And then he screened it in his local movie theater, and I think he said he made $501. So he made $1 profit. So,
Well,
and if there are little clips on YouTube. It looks horrible. Like, it's crazy how, like, people said that you can see, flashes of genius that became Spielberg, but just the clips I've seen, it's hard to see that and then see what, he seemed to come out fully formed just a couple years later.
Yeah.
Well, why is this movie called Close Encounters? I mean, because spoilers, but they encounter.
Yeah, well, it's supposedly like there's three versions of, there's three kinds of Close Encounters. And I haven't looked this up since I was a kid, but let me see if I get this right.
Yeah.
Close Encounter, the first kind, is seeing something in the sky, seeing like an unidentified flying object.
Mm-hmm.
And Close Encounters of the second kind, I don't know. And Close Encounters of the third kind is you actually make contact with aliens.
No, the second kind is when you get blisters. Like you put aloe vera gel on and
you get night sweats.
Yeah, you get blisters and
yeah, you get cranky and you get ennui and you get divorced. Yeah.
That's pretty good though, Tom. You were close. It was actually, is started by a guy. There's a guy, I think this guy's absolutely fascinating. There's a guy named J. Allen Hynek, and he actually makes a cameo later in the movie.
He's a horrible actor. All he has to do is stick a pipe in his mouth and I don't even buy it.
Wait, which dude is he in the movie?
We'll save it.
Yeah, we'll
save
it.
No, it's okay. All right. Either way, it's okay.
But he was
like Chuck Jones.
Yeah, he does. But he was he started out working he was an astronomer, and the Air Force hired him to work on their early UFO investigations, Project Sign, Project Grudge, and Project Blue Book. And he was sort of the chief debunker. And he loved, like, he would love debunking people would call in with their stories about what they saw, and he would love going out and debunking it. But something weird kind of happened is over the years, he sort of started believing the stories. Yeah. And he had sort of this crazy Saul on the road to Damascus conversion, which I think will come up again in the movie. But he's the guy that eventually came up with the calling it Close Encounters and the different kinds. Like, first kind is you see one. Second kind is you see one and it leaves some kind of physical trace, like scorch marks on the ground or something that you can, something tangible.
Yeah.
And then third kind is contact. And then later they went in and added, like, fourth kind is abduction and fifth kind is whatever.
Oh, so it should be Close Encounters of the fourth kind of
that's the thing people say. Yeah, this should be the fourth.
Well, the fifth kind, I think you marry an alien.
Yeah.
At
the
least
fifth kind is you come back in E.T.
Yeah.
Like you hitch a ride. You're not even part of the movie. You're just in the background. You see Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah, I was
the new
just
ones
kidding.
get nuts too.
What's that?
Oh, the new ones get nuts too. They're all like X-Files. Like, there's like a seventh kind. It's like they create an alien human hybrid and
oh boy.
Yeah.
Black
but
oil,
the original
bees.
Yeah. The alien jumps a shark on a motorcycle when they're all on vacation in Hawaii.
Yeah, exactly.
I was kidding around. I thought, cool. I was just thinking of it as in terms of sunburns. Like, the first one you get a little bit of red.
Third kind burn.
Yeah. Second degree is blisters. But what's fascinating is they do have sunburns in this.
They do.
Yeah, which is really strange. Because they're talking about lights. Yeah, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Talking about lights.
Space lights.
We'll get there.
They're lights from beyond space.
Yeah. And speaking of lights from beyond space, this is a good movie to follow up Jaws with, because Jaws, I think, is got that famous scene where you see the two shooting stars that shoot across the sky, and that sort of became Spielberg's trademark. Mm-hmm. And I think I mentioned that on the show. That came from when he was a kid. One time when he lived in Phoenix, his parents woke him up in the middle of the night, and they didn't tell him where they were going and what they were doing. And they drove out into the desert, and they lay down on the grass, on the ground, and looked up and saw an amazing meteor shower. And that stuck with him for the rest of his life. And that kind of that feeling of magic and wonder that's out there kind of drove him to make this. And so he put that into Jaws. But while he was talking about that stuff on Jaws, Richard Dreyfuss overheard him talking and begged him to be part of this movie.
Yeah.
So this is how
really?
he got. Yeah. So there's a direct line.
What did Richard Dreyfuss do before this?
He did Jaws.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
Jaws.
Well, yes, of course.
Did American Graffiti.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
There was that.
I'm
not going to remember the name of it.
The opening credits. What would you guys call that font? It's like this late 70s computer block font.
Yeah.
And it simultaneously looks antiquated and futuristic.
Yeah.
It's
And I
like
can't.
past future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like past future. It's really weird. And I was looking at it and I'm like, what is it about that just tells your brain that it's past future?
Yeah.
Yeah. It
And
definitely
what is it about that era that says, oh, hey, this is, I don't know, computers, space stuff, as you would say, Tommy.
Right.
Space stuff.
And it's weird because
Yeah, I don't
it's
know if it's
instantly
because-
recognizable. Like you see it, you're like, oh, 70s space.
It's instantly,
right.
identifiable, right?
Like, is it because we were like 6 and 7 or whatever back then that we think that the 70s were nothing but UFOs and space and adventure and stuff?
Yeah,
Or was there?
I think nostalgia
like
is a big part.
But I feel like there was a lot of UFO stuff going on in the
Oh,
late
there
70s.
was. Yeah, that was kind of
Like documentaries
Yeah.
and In Search Of, and
there was all that
different
crazy
shows
stuff.
and
Yeah,
things.
Eric Von Daniken doing his ancient alien stuff. Like that all started in the 70s.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there was all the the New Age stuff started, and there was sort of this. There was all the conspiracy stuff with Watergate, and so it was kind of a perfect storm of
Yeah.
elements.
Yeah.
Well,
But yeah,
is there something about it that looks almost like its own version of pixelated or like computer drawn? The Close
little
Encounters
bit.
font.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The actual title, it's got those
Yeah.
lines through it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I mean. The
Yeah.
actual title
Yeah.
is that why it elicits that response in your brain?
I bet that's part of it because I don't know what it is about those lines going through it, but that looks exactly like, I can see Tron or I can see
Right.
Close
Totally.
Encounters.
Right.
It just looks like all those movies.
And the music fades in,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like really putting the eerie and mysterious.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really, really creepy and eerie, and I mean, it matches the font, and it matches I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's weird, this is like Jaws, is that John Williams does a lot of stuff in these two movies that he doesn't seem to do so much of later. And he really hits these interesting notes, it is really eerie. And then you get that famous chord when Close Encounters comes up on the screen.
Yeah, I would not have guessed that was John Williams just listening to the music.
Oh, yeah, no. Do you remember that? Do you remember at camp one year, Joe Spaley had this soundtrack?
Yes.
And he was super excited, like people were going to tell scary stories.
Yeah.
He's like, wait a minute, I got the perfect music. And he put this on. I'm like, wait, this is Close Encounters? Like I hadn't seen the movie in a while and I'd never just listened to the soundtrack. I was like, really? It's like spooky and weird.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And it worked. We were all scared.
Yeah. We were all scared.
It's weird too. The opening credits have 4 people credited.
Yeah.
And it's a weird, it's like 2 cast members, the director of photography, Vilmos, my buddy Vilmos Zsigmond,
Yeah.
who I love because he did a couple of Robert Altman movies, and before that, I mean, he's huge. He's like an Oscar winner. And he did Ratfinka Boo Boo with Ray Dennis Steckler, which is like this huge, crazy, Ray Dennis Steckler was like this B-movie director who everybody loves if they're cool, and he just made these ridiculous, the crazy mixed up monsters became mixed up zombies and whatever stuff. And yeah, Ray Dennis Steckler one day said, Vilmos, you're going to win an Oscar one of these days. And a few years later, he had a bunch of Oscars. But yeah, it's just like him and Spielberg and Richard Dreyfuss and Francois Truffaut.
And Vilmos gets, I think, a lot of credit for this movie because Julia and Michael Phillips, who also get the other credit, the producers, fought Vilmos the entire time over money. And especially over lights. Like he wanted lights, more lights. And they fought him, and he fought tooth and nail to get what he got, and I think it definitely shows in the final product.
You mean lights? Like you mean for the aliens and the spaceships?
Yeah.
They wanted lights. Yeah, that's pretty much all they are lights.
And you find out later that a lot of this was filmed inside, and a lot of it was just done because of the amazing lighting.
Yeah.
It is weird not seeing Douglas Slocum as director of photography for a Spielberg movie, but he does have a partial credit.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I don't get. He does
scene.
Something.
Yeah, he does the scenes in India.
Oh, okay, weird.
Yeah, which look amazing too. But
Yeah.
And then you get Francois Truffaut, and he's interesting because Spielberg was really afraid and nervous about asking him to be in this movie. Like, because he was one of his heroes. And he was a big deal. Like, he had done some huge movies, like 400 Blows and Jules and Jim. And,
yeah.
He's like a giant of the French New Wave. And he was like, yeah, I'll do it. But he said he would only do it if he could play himself. So that's kind of him playing Francois Truffaut. That's not him playing a character.
That's funny.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a good thing the character is French.
Yeah.
It works out.
Yeah.
What a great start to a movie.
Totally.
Anytime a movie begins with a haboob, it shows promise.
Yeah.
I know Pete gets my haboob reference there.
I just heard boob.
You heard boobs.
Boob.
No, that's a sandstorm.
Yeah.
A haboob is
okay.
a sandstorm. Yeah.
They had him a lot in Phoenix.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. They have them a lot in Phoenix, and I was wondering, is there a connection between aliens and the sandstorm and Yahweh?
Oh, interesting.
Yes. Chariots of the Gods, et cetera.
Yeah, Steven Spielberg, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, it does. It's a great opening. It's a really great opening. And I was wondering, watching this opening scene, if you're in a sandstorm or haboob, are you required to wear sand-colored poplin jackets?
Yeah.
Almost everybody. Yeah, there's the guys in camouflage and that sort of thing, but everybody's wearing like a sand-colored poplin jacket.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
That does seem kind of dumb. I never thought about that
It's
before.
true. Everybody in a sandstorm in the history of movies is wearing a sand-colored outfit.
I mean, it could be that they were like bright red and stuff, but now they're just so dusty and covered in sand.
Well, and we'll get to him in a minute, but the only guy who isn't is the sort of shell-shocked, super happy Nirvana, local Mexican man who's just he's just sort of is just sort of stumbling and verbally stumbling to himself.
Uh-huh.
And he's not wearing a sand-colored poplin jacket.
Well, he's a local, so he knows better.
Yeah, he's not.
I don't want to get lost in a haboob.
What is the connection? Why is there like the American, French, Spanish thing here, or Mexican thing? Why do they open it like that? You think?
Well, I guess they're in Mexico because they're in Mexico.
Yeah.
Like, this is where this thing happened.
Yeah.
I guess they just want... I don't know why they chose Mexico, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, it's
and
great.
And I guess the French is there because he wanted Francois Truffaut. And the Americans, the Americans are usually in charge of everything. They got their finger on the pulse of everything that's happening in the world.
And Francois Truffaut's French for a reason, because he's based on a real guy, Jacques Vallée, who's a French guy, who is a French UFO expert.
Oh, nice.
So he wrote a bunch of
books. And I
books.
like Bob Balaban, who belongs in the club of he's the best part of any movie that he's in.
Mm-hmm.
Like him, Martin Balsam, I don't know, Harry Dean Stanton. There's probably 10 of them. But anyway, he's one of them. But he congratulates Francois Truffaut on congratulations on the conference or whatever, and you don't have no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And I still, I've seen the movie many times. I still don't know what he's talking about, but
Right.
it's fine. There's a lot of that in this movie, by the way. I want
Yeah.
to say that right up front. There's a lot that just factually, just logically doesn't make any sense, but it works perfectly and I'm fine with it.
Wow. That's a different tack from Temple of Doom.
Oh, get out of here.
Like
Well, Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom is like, wait, this is supposed to make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, the movie suffers for it.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with a bunch of guys climbing up on, reading, yelling out engine block numbers at the same time in a haboob. There's no way the guy is hearing that. But I'm like, I get this. This is the scene. Everyone's freaking out. Everyone's running around. It's hubbub, checking oil levels and stuff.
Yeah.
That works perfectly. I have no problem with that.
So who alerted the guys? First of all, what's the connection between the American guy and the he's like, hey, are we the first ones to show up? Like, who made the phone call?
So it's not.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
It's not developed very well in the movie, but there's a backstory that there's part of this organization called Project Mayflower, and you see the logo on some things, but I don't think they ever specifically call it out in the movie. And they're like a UFO investigative organization, and so they're kind of an intergovernmental group that goes around investigating all this stuff. So I don't know who originally made the call,
Right.
Yeah.
but they're always on the cutting edge. Like they're the first ones that get called when there's some kind of UFO sighting.
Right. That's
But like
why
who
they-
in this little town who called and
Yeah.
who knew to call?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I never
Yeah.
thought of that.
Unless they just called the army, and the army called, someone in the army. Was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I bet my
That's
buddy
probably
John would be like this. Or
Yeah.
my
Well,
buddy
so my
Sean.
question:
American
did they call
planes
the
here.
American guy and the cartographer who speaks?
No, the
French?
cartographer Spielberg had a lot of trouble figuring out how to fit him in, like how to introduce him, and he filmed 3 different scenes, and this is the one he ended up using, where he's introduced as Francois Truffaut's translator. And my favorite, there's a deleted scene where it comes later, but basically he meets him in a limo at an airport, and Francois Truffaut makes him read this erotic French poetry book at the top of his lungs, because he wants him to. It's really important that he translates not just what his words are, but his emotions and
That's funny.
his tone of voice. And so, like, the limo driver is turning around the whole time, like watching him, because he's screaming out like, "Her breasts were supple," and yeah.
That's awesome.
But I don't think he quite figured it out, like how he's going to fit him in, and it would make
Yeah.
sense that this guy's.
But he's part of the-
He's part of the team.
He's part of the team, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it sounds like, he's part of the team by the way, a cartographer is a map maker.
Yeah. Yeah. He kind
I
of.
just wanted you to.
I make maps.
You got that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it sounds like that was his job, but then suddenly they found out he speaks French, so they need him as a translator.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because if you think Truffaut is on the team, it sounds like he's usually involved with these things.
Yeah, you'd
that,
think he'd
they would
already
already
have-
have that in place. You would
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
They'd have a guy.
That's why I was a little bit confused. I'm like, okay, so Truffaut is already there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well,
then,
no, he got there. Oh, wait, is he already there?
Well, they show up at this. I think they show up in different cars. They probably get
Yeah,
there about
yeah.
the same
Yeah.
time.
Okay.
Right.
And it's like there's 3 groups of people that descend, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how do they know each other?
Yeah.
And the
yeah.
first guy is like, are we the first ones here? So he's like, he's already expecting other people, and you're like, is it a rival thing?
No. I think
Yeah,
it's
it's not,
some
but-
people are coming from
Yeah.
France, some people are
Yeah.
coming from California or something. Yeah.
Sure.
We'll rendezvous at this little hut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a good, this whole scene. I know you hate this, Jerry, but this was the last thing they actually filmed.
Oh, I hate that.
But this whole scene, like, is another like peak 1970s childhood thing. Is these airplanes that they find stranded conveniently in a junkyard in the middle of a desert are a group of training aircraft that went missing in the Bermuda Triangle. And that's another thing. Like when we were kids, it's like, oh my
That
God,
was
Bermuda
huge.
Triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that, do we mourn the loss of the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle?
Was it ever been figured out? Like, do they?
No, nobody cares anymore. They just take a
They really
like
don't,
a
yeah.
selfie of, they just take a
Yeah.
selfie. Here's me in the Bermuda Triangle selfie, Instagram.
Right.
It's not like, and then it was never found again.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
when people are flying planes over, as we've seen recently, an area that's prone to hurricanes, back when they didn't have a lot of technology to predict when a hurricane was coming or that kind of stuff, or,
Yeah.
at least bad weather. I think there's a lot
Right.
of stuff that's easy to explain today that at the time
Yeah.
seemed a lot more mysterious.
I mean,
But that was a question I always had. Like these planes, that's an actual story from history that these planes disappeared.
Yeah, this is an actual, their 5 Grumman Avenger torpedo bombers disappeared in 1945. It was a training mission.
Wow. Huh.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And he like a lot of the details in this movie are great. Like he did a lot of research.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell. Yeah.
But it's kind of freaky that there are no taxi trails.
Yeah.
Although
Right.
they would be wiped clean by a sandstorm lasting a year.
Yeah. But they got there,
So-
within a day, so they're good.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I did think, well, there is this insane haboob happening. I mean, there might not be taxi trails. I mean,
Right.
But
Yeah.
I love that the 1945 calendar has the Sundays marked in red.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Just to remind you.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
those red letter days.
Don't forget to not do anything.
Don't forget to you gotta go to church. And I
Yeah.
actually looked that up, and that came from like the first Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. But
Really?
also,
Really?
yes, but also the Romans used they would mark special feast days or holidays in red on their calendars, dating all the way back to like 500 BC and 200.
Wow.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting. And I mean, the reason I thought about that, he pulls out the calendar and it's God, what is it? Is it the Tropicana?
The trade wind
Yeah.
bar.
Yeah, the trade wind bar in Pensacola, Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it, and all the Sundays are marked in red. I'm like, God, my grandmother had exactly one of those calendars where all the, they had all those days. The Sundays were red, or sometimes the Fridays would be in red because that was like Fish Friday, like if it was Lent.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be like
Yeah.
you can't, or just even for if you got a way old school grandma, it would be all the Fridays were
God.
marked in red because you had to eat fish. You weren't allowed to eat meat
Yeah.
on Friday.
If you're that hardcore, do you really need the date to be in red? Aren't you gonna kind of have that ingrained? Is this one of those red Fridays? I
Yeah.
can't. Every Friday's a red Friday. That's right.
Yep. They always say that was because of, like, the Irish were to help the Irish fishermen. You're kind of
Oh, really?
yeah, that's what I read about, and you're kind of like,
funny.
you want to say you guys realize that fish is still meat, right? I mean, we can
Yeah,
say
you're
it's
eating
not,
animals.
yeah, but you're still eating an animal. I mean, it's still
Well, Jesus was a fisherman. It's cool.
yeah, there you go. He was a fisher of men.
Yeah, a fisher.
That's
oven.
right. Fisherman. Yeah. That's what I said.
We get a thing that might answer a long-standing mystery for you, Jer.
I know what you're gonna say. You talk about them airplane instruments, aren't you?
I am. The guy starts flicking the fuel gauge with his finger, and it immediately goes to full, and then the engine kicks on. He flips the engine on,
That's
which is
awesome.
exactly what happened in Lao Che's chicken plane that Jer
Yeah,
was
that's right.
concerned about.
And what
Well, the opposite happened.
we talked
yeah.
about with Jim O'Kane, and he said that yes, that does happen and can happen, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's
it's all just mechanics.
Yeah.
It's just like you have pieces moving up against each other, and sometimes you got to tap them. Yeah,
yeah. And I love how, like, as soon as they see these planes, they're just racing from plane to plane, and they don't stop racing until the end of the movie. Like, they're just filled with glee and excitement to try to figure out what's going on.
right.
I,
And Bob Balaban standing there yelling, what's going on? Hey, why are they here? And the movie's over, and you're like, oh wait, why are those planes there? Why did the aliens just like leave those planes there?
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't
Yeah,
I
know.
don't really
you
want to
never- you
know.
never find
Don't
out.
find out.
Yeah.
because I don't want. Yeah.
Yeah. And why did they bring him back now? And why did they put him in a junkyard in Mexico? And there are all kinds of things that are never
Yeah.
answered or never even hinted at.
Is this a junkyard?
Well, I'm assuming because it's got all those cars piled
Yeah.
up,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I never even thought of that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
which is weird. Like, why? I mean, maybe they're like, oh, I guess they belong here.
right.
I don't know.
You're right. I mean, there's a lot of questions that are not answered.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
what are the aliens doing with people?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Or
What do they do
even-
with these pilots for
Yeah.
40 years?
Yeah.
Or whatever?
Or and how long have the planes have been there? What, a day?
Yeah.
So they just kept the planes, and then They kept the pilots and the planes, and then they dropped off the planes, but kept the pilots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they kept them for what, 35 years or 40 years?
Although I think one thing we learn later is they say this proves the relativistic speeds, or they mention
Yeah.
that so maybe they weren't gone
Einstein
that
was
long.
probably
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah.
Right, right.
So maybe they were just they flew up to Saturn or something at a very high speed and came back.
Yeah.
and time dilation.
You know what sucks? I'm already starting to formulate like why the aliens might have done this and stuff. And it kind of makes are they later on they send like these numbers and stuff,
Uh-huh.
and like maybe they wanted to make sure that people were paying attention. Like maybe this was just like a tap on the shoulder or something.
Huh.
Like, hey, something weird is up. Remember those planes you lost? Oh, what are they doing here in Mexico in a junkyard? You guys better pay attention. Here's some numbers. Figure out what those mean.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing.
I
I,
like
don't
that.
know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for the alien to take an airplane up into its spaceship, I mean, is that like us looking at stone tools from
probably.
a million years ago?
It's like us looking at an Atari 2600.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We're just studying the stone
Yeah.
tools, and they're like, "Oh, look, this one had a little axe on the end or a spearhead."
Yeah.
Isn't that lovely?
All the Sundays are red. What's this about?
Yeah. Oh, how
That's weird.
quaint.
And there's something that feels so 70s about the idea that any kind of thing that happens, like, oh, a training mission of several planes disappeared, it's got to be aliens.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like our
right.
first hunch is, oh, I bet this is something supernatural.
Yeah.
This is aliens. Or it's something weird.
Yeah. They're over the ocean, not exactly in charted waters. It must have been aliens.
Yeah.
That's the only explanation.
As far as the old man, the local guy who's jabbering away, when they talk to him, are they like if no one disrupted him, would he just be sort of in like nirvana for the rest of his life?
Yeah, I
Like
was kind
just
of
in
wondering
sort of
that too.
a state
Yeah.
of bliss.
I feel like he already has. I think that's like him. I think he's. I always assume that he's just kind of an old kind of doddering dude. Like, are you asking if he's been like knocked for a loop?
Oh yeah,
from
see, I thought the opposite.
Seeing these things?
I thought he was like he had some kind of
No.
a transcendent experience.
Yeah, he had some
Oh,
sort
okay.
of a
He's-
transcendent. Well, he says the ship sang to
Yeah.
him. The sun sang to him. And you're
But I
like,
wondered if maybe he was already kind of wacky. He's like, the
Yeah.
local, squeeze Drano bum, you know. But yeah, it could be.
No,
Maybe
I-
he was like, a professor of, English.
like, is he ever
an
going to
hour ago.
go back to doing what he did previously before this experience? I don't think he is.
running his
And-
junkyard?
Well, yeah, running his junkyard. Yeah.
Or is he like, hey, maybe he's just smiling because he's like, I'm rich. I have all these planes all of a sudden.
Yeah,
Mint
it's on my
condition.
property. Pay up.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, look, if the sun sings to you, how
Yeah.
are you,
Yeah.
like you're going to wake up the next day and feel differently, and you might not ever return.
Yeah, I think
Right.
I'm just saying, and we do have a scene coming up in a few minutes here where, we see someone else who clearly sees the aliens or the sun singing to them, and they're
Yeah.
transfixed.
Yeah, he has a tough time. Yeah.
But this is one of the things I love so much about this movie. This had to be a big departure from anything that had come before, because when this came out, when you think of aliens in movies, they're pretty much universally bad guys. They're coming here to destroy people and kill people and destroy things. And in
Yeah.
this movie, it's something completely different and something new. It's
Right.
They're these wonderful, curious, funny beings that come and they're bringing good and happiness, and it's especially
Rip a child from
Yeah.
his mother's arms.
they don't always do it with a plum, but
Yeah.
You'd never think so if you look at the opening font and the opening.
I know, and
music.
the music,
Yeah, the
Yeah,
music.
yeah.
You'd be like, these guys
Yeah.
are coming and they're gonna get into your brain like a weird leech worm,
yeah.
and then blow you up in some newfangled fashion.
Yeah.
And the movie keeps doing that. It keeps kind of faking you out. It goes back
Yeah.
and forth, between, are these good guys? Are the aliens good? Are they bad? Are they here to destroy us? Are they here to do something? Mm-hmm. And it was interesting because when I saw the new restoration that came out recently, there were a bunch of people in the theater that had never seen it before, and it was interesting hearing their reactions during the movie. And it was,
Oh, wow.
like it was stuff that I was wondering, like, will this still surprise somebody, or would somebody still be, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I think it still worked.
Oh, that's cool. I I like to think that that this junkyard or whatever this is has exactly enough electrical power to light that Coca-Cola sign in the window.
Yeah.
Like they only have electricity for that sign.
Do you think Coke got paid for this? Because they're in this a lot.
See, I don't know how that works. Does Coke get money for being in the movie, or does Coke give them money to be prominently displayed in the movie? I think it's more like that.
Yeah, that's a good. I would.
Well,
think
this
they would
is
give
all
money.
pre Reese's Pieces, not
Right,
Reese's
right.
Pieces.
It was going to be a Pepsi sign in the window,
Yeah.
but they turned it down famously.
All-
now everyone
yeah.
knows Coke from Close Encounters.
I mean, that whole Reese's Pieces thing that kind of just shot the whole marketing thing through
Yeah.
the roof,
Yeah.
didn't it?
You've never heard of M&M since then.
Yeah, exactly.
Ruined 'em.
This movie has a lot of product placement, though.
It
You
does.
get McDonald's. There's a deleted scene with Dairy Queen. There's a lot of stuff where You could say.
Yeah, like the Coke is prominently displayed, and
Piggly Wiggly.
those cans of Coke are the old-fashioned tab
Yeah.
pull-off.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you talk about what looks like 1977.
Yeah.
Dang.
When did that happen? When did they switch away from those? I don't even know.
I bet you the early 80s, maybe.
Yeah, we were still kids.
Yeah.
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 Did you ever like shred your mouth or lips on those things? They're kind of razor
No, but-
sharp.
Well, like the pull-off
Well, yeah,
things?
the
ones that
pull
come all
off.
the way
Yeah,
off?
the little pull off that would come all the way off. They were
Yeah.
sharp.
What was I always heard that like the story for why they switched was because people would toss the
Yes.
people would toss the tab into the can and then swallow it and die because they're
Yeah.
stupid.
Yes, I heard the same story.
insane.
Was
You
that
and I- you and-
before?
bizarre.
Was that before or after Mikey and the Pop Rocks?
No, yeah, he just swallowed a bunch of Pop Rocks with Coke and then
He died. Yeah.
with Coke, and then he died, and then he was actually, they found him in the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, and then he married both Hall and Oates.
Yes, I have a question. So the next scene, we're in the the control tower, right? The
Uh-huh.
airport,
Yeah,
and they mention, that they mention anti-collision lights. And one of the guys says, oh, they're real bright for anti-collision lights. And I'm,
Yeah.
that we have the planes and they're encountering the UFO here. And I'm wondering, why are they so bright? Is that just good old-fashioned caution on the aliens' parts?
I don't know. I think that's the sort of thing where it's like the movie reason first, and then like the in-movie reason second. Like I think their solution for what the aliens would look like, what the ships would look like, was that you actually can't see the ships because the lights are so bright.
Ah,
That's like it's just about the lights.
yeah. Which is
Yeah,
awesome.
they went through all these like different like shapes and stuff. And like, how about it's just like the motif of these things is just they're blindingly bright and beautiful.
Yeah.
and you can't even see what they look like.
Which I love. I absolutely
Yeah.
love. And that sort of thing works. We talked about this with Jaws. That completely works when you don't really need to see the fish, especially not as a big
Right.
mechanical fish jumping out onto the boat and writhing around and wriggling around. I love the fact I'm totally fine with just seeing these lights.
Yeah,
And they're
Yeah.
they're ethereal and mysterious, and you're like, well, I can't really tell what it is, and you're like, that's fine. It's I don't
Yeah.
even need to know anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, not to jump to the end of the movie, but it's like even when they show in great detail and every way they can the huge mothership and everything, you're like, wow, there's everything we can ever get to see about the aliens and everything. Where it's right in our faces. It still manages to be satisfyingly, kind of ununderstandable or something. You're like, wow, what am I kind of looking at? Like, what is This is like it's like the kind of awe factor, like, oh my gosh, I'm being blown away by the visuals, but then it's also like, yeah, I kind of don't get this. Like, this thing came up from out of the mountain, and like, how did it fit back there?
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
flipping upside down, and like, what? So like, yeah, even though they go whole hog and show you everything by the end, it's still satisfying somehow because it's bizarre.
I would have been fine with no hog
Yeah,
and never seeing an alien or anything. I would have been fine
Yeah.
with the lights. I think that's
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fine
mysterious
li-
and
yeah,
great.
Yeah.
that's a line that I wonder about every time I watch this. Like, okay, how much do I need to see, and how much don't I need? Like, do I see too much of this movie or don't?
But I feel like he
and
did.
even without the special edition.
I think he learned a lot from Jaws because I think he kind of used about the same amount of Bruce as we get in Jaws. Like I think you get
yeah.
a little bit of the shark, you get a little bit of the aliens, but you mostly get lights,
Right.
and you get the hint of aliens.
And like with this, it's more of like, I don't know, like with Jaws, you've seen a shark, you know what a shark looks like.
Yeah.
So it's not like, and this is what the shark was the whole time, But with Close Encounters, you kind of need to give the audience something, maybe.
Yeah.
Because like Roy is going through this thing, and he's discovering everything. He's finally, making contact and stuff. So you
Yeah.
kind of got to go along with him a little bit there.
But see, the whole point of this, especially in the 70s, is UFOs are unidentified flying objects.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I'm fine without seeing the aliens, without
Yeah.
seeing like either they exist already in my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know
I'm
what I
fine
mean? And
as-
I'm
I'm
not
fine as
dogging
an
the
adult,
movie.
but-
I'm just saying I don't need to ever see them because what they stand for is completely intact.
As a little kid in the 70s, though, I'd fight you for saying that.
That's totally fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Like I remember when they did the special edition when they show the inside of the mothership, and I was like, "Oh my god, I've always wanted to know what's in here."
Yeah, well,
And then it
no,
was-
sure.
Yeah.
You see the alien, cooking dinner.
And I'm not saying it's better, but as a
Oh.
little kid,
Come
you
on
definitely
in.
want to see, Mala
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
making
Well,
the
as you said,
Bantha
Tommy, it's a
Did you say Mala?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
it's a fine line. It's a fine line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's probably a different line for different people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The aliens are very 70s looking aliens though. 60s and 70s looking aliens.
Yeah, they're totally built around like what everybody was saying aliens look
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Like people
and
who have
like,
been abducted and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, like remember the book that you threw across the room, Tommy, Communion?
Oh God. Yeah. That was later. That was after this, I think. But yeah, that was crazy.
I read that
That's
book.
I don't even think
I
never
read that
finished
book
that.
after you told me that story. You were reading the book Communion, and you told me it
Yeah.
was the scariest book you had ever read. And I knew
It was
you as
really
like
creepy.
you were like my friend who read all the Stephen King novels and all the Stephen King. You love Creepshow
Yep.
and freaky,
Yeah.
scary stuff. And I went straight to the top with you. That was the scariest book you'd ever read. So I went out and read it.
Was it
It
scary
was.
for you?
Yeah. It was totally creepy. It's totally
Yeah,
creepy.
it's deeply creepy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is creepy.
And
I wonder if it still would be, but at the time, yeah.
It was, yeah. And the cover of it, I remember, kind of resembled this type of alien.
Yeah. But I wonder how much like the alien portrayed in this movie became the alien people saw when they had UFO experiences. Like I wonder if
Maybe.
this was sort of the genesis for a lot of that.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, why do the pilots not want to report a UFO? Like,
We don't want to do one of those.
Oh, I
yeah,
love that.
and I do too. I love it too. And I'm thinking it's just all the ponderous paperwork.
Well, is that, and there's like, they might get fired from their job, or people are going to think they're crazy.
Oh,
or-
you're that kook.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what happens? And you never really know. Like the light, they're descending, and then the guy's like, boy, that was close, and it's like super bright.
Uh-huh.
And then they ask the pilots who wants to report what, and everybody's like, the one guy's like, no, and the other guy's like, nah, I don't want to do that. And then he's like, I don't.
I would have if he had said yeah.
Yeah,
No,
he's like,
don't
I
want to.
wouldn't even know what to report.
But the way
Yeah.
he says it, the guy with the white hair comes up and he puts his hand
Mm-hmm.
on Harry's shoulder, and he's like, ask him if they want to report. And he doesn't say ask him if they want to report a UFO.
Yeah.
Everybody already knows that. And that you get the impression that this happens kind of regularly, and everybody knows
Mm-hmm.
about these experiences, but nobody wants to talk about them out openly.
Yeah.
And I love that because it's sort of, fits into this whole conspiracy feeling that's kind of running behind the whole movie.
Yeah.
Well,
And I love that the the indicator on the radar for the unknown, the unidentified flying object is UNC, which I assume is unknown.
Yeah.
But it makes me think of my friend Jerry Porter, who every time he saw something that he loved and was overwhelmed with how real it was and how he didn't want it to slip from his grasp, he'd grab and go UNC.
That's totally true. That's it. I like that. I wondered how the radar viewed that too. The unknown, it was just.
Yeah. Well, I think they put an automatic call sign with the ones that they know.
Yeah.
So if you look at the other ones, it says
Yeah.
like TWA or it says AE for Air East or whatever. But part of what makes this scene so incredible,
Oh, is he saying Air East?
yeah, it's Air East.
Yeah, Air East.
I thought he was saying Aries.
No,
Sounds-
there's
it
a
sounds like
deleted scene.
Aries.
Yeah, that comes out. It does sound like Aries, but there's a
Yeah.
deleted scene that we'll talk about in a second after this, where you see the Air East jet land,
Oh, weird.
and
And
so you
I
find out
always-
exactly what happens
I
if they
always
report a
listen to
UFO.
this stuff with subtitles on, and it said Air East.
Yeah,
Not that subtitles
no,
are always
yeah.
right.
No, they're often
Right.
wrong. Yeah, any breath in you.
Yeah.
You've been let down before, Jerry.
That's
But part of
true.
what makes this scene so realistic is they actually filmed it with real air traffic controllers in an air traffic control center. So this was the
Yeah.
very first scene they shot, and it was Columbia again trying to get tax credits. So they filmed it in Palmdale, California at the air traffic control center, and most of the people in the scene are just air traffic controllers there, like at work.
That's awesome.
And it's great because it's even got like that great Ben Burt Death Star attack special kind of voice distortion at certain points, which
Yeah.
I love.
I'm going to just get this out right at the beginning here. What blows me away about this movie is the thousands and thousands and thousands and maybe even 1 million people who are now hip to UFOs and yet the government or whoever is still trying to hide it all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, the pilots, like if we're going on what you're saying here, Pete, like they see this stuff all the time, whatever you want to, you're like, is that just, I mean, you couldn't get away with that now. Somebody pull out their cell phone and whatever, and they go straight to TMZ, and they you know what I mean? They just go right to whatever it is. There'd be myriad conversations that you could record that would show that actually there was, you know, there wasn't a weird sighting or a UFO or somebody saw it, or somebody got a half face burn, and we can't come up with, and they'd go right to TMZ or the New York Times or the Washington Post, whatever, and they're just. And then it would even be, you know, like, hey, look what the government's hiding. And then maybe for a little bit people wouldn't believe it. Maybe for like a week or 2 or 3. But then it would just be inundated. And after a while, it would just be like, hey, we're going to get the UFOs flying over, you know, Tiger Stadium today.
Right.
Everybody just come and watch, you know, the Yankees play the...
They arranged this special with
exactly, the Red Sox. UFO Day. Everybody gets a, you know, aluminum foil hat. Aluminum foil hat at
aluminum foil hat.
at the Yankee Stadium. I mean, that's what blew me away is we're not talking about like Roy has this secret that, you know, the aliens are just coming to him in his room. You're like, well, hell, like, I mean, half the cul-de-sac sees all these aliens. Half the town is seeing it. What's there to hide?
You know what? Jody was just saying that. My wife was just saying that when we were watching this earlier. She was like, you know, it's weird that this takes place in Muncie, Indiana. Mm-hmm. That, like, it's such a populated place that, like, it's not like in the middle of nowhere, you know, like the Phoenix Desert or something where Spielberg grew up or something. Like, because there's so many people who are going to see this stuff, does that make it less mysterious? But I kind of don't think so. I think that my wife is wrong.
Yeah.
I kind of feel that, like, the point is that some people see it and they just kind of like, lights.
Yeah.
And then other people are like, their lives are, you know, almost ruined by it.
And there are several deleted scenes that'll come up of people that have experiences where they did see it and someone doesn't believe them. And we'll talk about some of those later, like the cops try to make their report and stuff like that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Well, Pete, I have a note specifically for you, well, and for me. I mean, we spent many a night in Indiana. And Indiana has these gorgeous summer nights. And with crickets and you know, if you're in rural Indiana, you see a lot of stars. And it also makes perfect sense that aliens would land in Indiana because Indiana is a super f***ed up weird state. That always, I'm dead serious, and you know what I'm talking about, Pete. You lived in Richmond, Indiana for years, and it's like how you know it's f***ed up is if you just read the local newspapers and you know like the, you know, you read like the Muncie Gazette or whatever it is, like the White County Bugle or just these little, and you'd see, I'll never forget, about 6 months or 8 months before the whole, like, was it John Bobbitt scandal where the woman cut off Bobbitt's penis and you know, she was mad at him and that whole thing blew up. I swear to God, I think it was in Bedford, Indiana. There was a tiny local story about a woman who had cut off her husband's penis and I think fed it to some ducks. And it was a tiny little thing on like page 6 Metro. It's probably, you know, there's such small newspapers. Yeah, it was page 2 Metro, and it was buried beneath all, you know, just these little local newspapers. They'd have all sorts of completely wacko, crazy stories, like cow found in tree.
Yeah.
And you'd read it, it would look like what today would be like the Onion, but it was all real. Yeah, it was all just real little tiny bugles and gazettes and chroniclers. And I remember that specifically when we were, you know, Pete and I went to college together at Indiana University back in them early 90s, and that was the vibe. So I have no problem with aliens showing up in Indiana. That makes perfect sense. The only other place I'd throw, like the other state I'd throw in there is Florida. Florida's really wacko too.
Yeah.
A lot of weird stuff happens in Florida.
Yeah.
The aliens are just like, just be sure to drop a cow in a tree to
Yeah,
appease
yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
They won't even
It
notice
makes
it.
It's like
Perfect
it's like you go to
sense.
visit a new city and you're like, oh, I'm going to check out the zoo. It's like I want to see something interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I go check out the Muncie.
That made
is-
perfect sense.
Right before we get to Muncie, though, we get a deleted scene that I think is interesting. That Air East plane lands at Chicago O'Hare, and you've got this is another in this scene. Laughlin and Lacombe meet for the first time, and this is where he has him translate the erotic French poetry. But the plane lands.
Oh, so they're like investigating
Yeah,
this
they're
flight?
investigating the flight that lands that the air traffic controllers had just talked about.
Oh, wow.
And so you see the plane taxi into view, and all of a sudden, all these same investigators go running up the stairs into the plane, and they order the captains out, and they say, or the pilot, they order the pilot and the staff out, and they say, don't talk about this with anybody, don't wash the plane. And then they turn, and the guy gets on the cabin mic, and he tells everybody in the plane that they have to turn over their cameras. And everyone's like, oh, this sucks.
Really?
He's like, of course, the government will develop all your pictures and send them to you free of charge. And everyone's still mad. But there's like, you
That's
find out
funny.
what happens if they report a UFO or what happens.
Yeah.
It's not good. Like it sucks for everybody.
Wait, so in that version, did they did report?
I don't know if they did report
did
or
they
they
just
just
get
got
wind
wind
of,
of
like-
it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I mean,
That's
it's
weird.
And,
what's fascinating is
Laughlin-
how much of the movie is, as you said, about cover-ups.
And, cover-ups and misinformation. Like that'll come up again
Right.
and again too, which was a big theme, in 1977.
Did Spielberg sort of invent like the government? I mean, I guess it's probably, came out of Watergate and stuff, but there's so many movies from this era and then into the 80s where like the government is the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, and there's like some suburban kid who just wants to live his life with his alien or with his,
Yeah.
accidentally starting a nuclear war or something.
Yeah.
And, it's the government that's always the bad guy.
But
Yeah.
what about Capricorn 1? Remember that?
Oh, that was a good
yeah.
movie. Yeah.
That was a really good movie. Telly Savalas keeps saying pervert, and I laugh every time.
But yeah.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I'm laughing right now. Telly Savalas keeps saying pervert.
Yeah, he's like this weird. He owns this biplane or something, and like what's his name? What's his name? I want to say Charles Bronson. That's not his name. James Brolin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. He hitches a ride with Telly Savalas, and he keeps hey, one of them perverts. That kind of thing. Tickles my funny bone.
But yeah, when we get this cut and then it says Muncie, Indiana, and you get this beautiful shot of the farmhouse, like under the stars, and you see the trees kind of dancing, the shadows dancing on the side of the house. But you get a really pronounced use of orange and teal. And I was wondering if this is one of the first uses of that.
Maybe.
Because, people talk about how that's everywhere now, and, movies
Yeah.
specifically go for that. But I was curious if this was
Right.
kind of one of the first.
And what's the thinking behind that? I know we talked about it. I think we talked about it like the beginning of
I think
Raiders
so
of the
too.
Lost
Yeah, because
Ark.
you hated the Blu-ray
Yeah.
transfer.
Yeah, and I want to break it. I haven't broken that yet. I have to go back and break that because I hate it so much. But yeah, I still don't fully understand what the whole. Just that those two colors, the juxtaposition of them is like somehow like crack for the mind
Yeah.
or something. Like it's a pleasing,
Yeah.
engaging thing for the eyeball or something, and so people just saturate everything with orange and teal.
Is it like the visual version of do 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 do?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The whole like Barry, the kid Barry. When my son Sam was about that age, he looked a lot like him.
Yeah.
So I have a
He looks exactly
does look
like
a lot like
Sam.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
thinking that he looks
Yeah.
identical
Toys!
to Sam, and I knew you loved it.
yeah. That's tough. I get weepy sometimes, you guys.
Is it on that scene where they show the exterior of the house and the cornfields, Muncie, Indiana, and there's like, is the sun setting? Is that still?
I'm not
like
sure what that is.
sunset
Yeah, the
on
horizon's
horizon?
glowing.
Or is that the?
Or is it
alien
Muncie? Is it the lights
ship?
in Muncie? I'm
Is
not
it-
sure what it is.
I don't know if it's the lights in Muncie, bro.
Well, yeah, it's definitely not the lights of real Muncie, but the liberties this movie
Right.
takes with with the beautiful mountain overlooking Muncie and the long tunnel. But yeah, you're right. And this scene's kind of amazing too because I didn't realize every time you see stars in the movie, they're not real. Like it's a either a matte shot or it's some kind of special effect. But
Wow.
the camera, I counted, the camera lingers on the house and is still shot for 11 seconds, which is kind of amazing. Like, you would never see that today. But I like because it's just a very slow, thoughtful, kind of nice.
You wouldn't see a lot of stuff in this movie today. Yeah. You wouldn't see a lot of stuff in Star Wars.
I mean, but can you but can you imagine pulling off an entire plane crew and passengers and being like, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. Right. Give us all your cameras and you know, that wouldn't happen today.
Yeah. But the fact that in the 70s, I don't think anyone watched this and was like, oh, that would never happen. Like, I think everyone watched it. It's like, yeah. Like, I totally see this.
Sure. Everybody would film themselves, like having a sit-in and explain, like do like a Facebook Live thing and be like, "Look at what TWA is doing to me." Yeah, don't believe exactly.
Well, can I ask you guys something?
Yeah.
Have you, in your lives, ever looked for care for the shape of a square? And if so,
do you remember this song?
What?
From Sesame Street? Do you remember this song from Sesame
Street?
I
don't remember from Sesame Street, but I always notice that Joe Raposo is credited at the end of the movie, and he wrote a ton of stuff for Sesame Street.
Oh, okay.
He was like, sing a song. Don't get sued by singing it too long. Okay. It's awesome.
And Barry's performance in this is unbelievable. And there was actually talk of Cary Guffey, the actor, getting a Best Supporting Actor nomination for the Academy Awards.
Oh, he's amazing in this. I actually looked up that song. It's the Pickwick Children's Chorus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I guess it's called the Square Song. Yeah, and you want to know the craziest thing that made me believe in aliens straight up is the monkey claps, and it's clapping a complete triplet over the snare song. I mean, over the square song. It's like a complete triplet over the song. Like, I can't hum it right now, but if I listen to it, and it's like the monkey is clapping in perfect 3/4 time. It's really, really strange. It's something that you'd almost have to try to do.
Yeah.
It's really consistent, and I don't know. It was kind of shocking. It was the sort of thing I wonder if they did it. You must have done it on purpose.
Maybe.
Yeah, they might have.
You know what's really weird in this scene? You wouldn't have noticed it then, but by 78 you would have noticed there's not one Star Wars toy.
Oh,
in this kid's house.
I've got that in my notes too.
That's amazing.
Like, you could tell this was filmed right before that phenomenon hit.
To the point where it's like you wonder if, like, the kids' rooms in E.T. and Poltergeist were just making up for that. Like, okay, now I'm in the era of Star Wars. I can fill kids' rooms with Star Wars stuff.
The toys are so, like, I remember these toys for being a little kid, but like it's amazing. Like, it was night and day between 1977 and 1978. Like, what kids would have in their room. But I love the mechanical Frankenstein guy whose pants fall down.
Yeah, he gets embarrassed.
His face turns red.
Yeah. And I always want to think that I have no idea what the show is. It's on in the background in the mom's room. Ralphie's mom.
Oh, it's Policewoman.
Get out of here! Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
With Angie Dickinson.
Do you know who the guy is in the scene?
Uh-uh.
Because I want it to be Bill Bixby. In my head, it's Bill Bixby.
Might be.
I don't know why it would be. I don't know why I think that.
He was in everything in the late 70s.
God, if that's Bill Bixby, I'm really good. I have to look that up.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to look that up.
Policewoman.
Why do the aliens pick Barry? Or why, more generally, why do they pick certain people? Like, why Barry here?
It's interesting because the people they pick seem to be kind of people who are curious about things.
Do they pick people who are prone to believing in UFOs, or at least are maybe prone to exploring or finding out, like aren't naturally cynical or skeptical, like people that they know are going to go the distance to meet them at Devil's Tower or whatever it is.
People who have Pinocchio music boxes.
Yeah.
They single them out. Yeah.
Well, and how are they communicating with Barry? Like, are they communicating with him through the record? Because the record says, "Can you find a square? Is a door shaped like a square?" And he gets up and walks through the door.
Yeah.
Like, are they talking to him, or are they communicating with him somehow,
weird.
or is he just following sounds that he thinks are outside?
It seems like people who I guess, are touched by or communicated, that the aliens communicate with. It's like they're overcome with this sense of wonder and bliss, and so they just follow it wherever they just follow it. They just get up and stop what they're doing and just follow.
Yeah. This is a weird movie.
Yeah.
But it's good. Like if you like tried to explain this movie to somebody, you'd be like, really? So people just get really excited because they see these lights and they don't know what it is. So it freaks them out, and they live their whole lives trying to figure out the light.
I can't figure out in this scene, do the aliens have flashlights or are they bioluminescent?
I don't know. Why? What do you mean?
Like if you look at the scene, Barry gets up and he goes down, and it's like there's rings of light on the floor as he goes downstairs, like he's, as he's going downstairs to check out what's going on. There's literally flashlights or what look like flashlights, unless the aliens, like I said, are bioluminescent and they shoot out light in circles.
Well, they're also messing with like electricity and stuff. So I wonder if like just lamps are coming on or
I would definitely be that guy, like that alien. Like you go into a room with all these toys, the first thing I want to do is turn every single one of them on and see what it does.
Do the toys, like, I wasn't even sure, like, take, I don't know, maybe the tank or something. Like, are all of them mechanical, or are some of them actually just like a Hot Wheel with no motor in it? But they just start moving just because.
Right.
I assumed they were all mechanical, but that's a good question.
It is. There's a lot of stuff that, like, they seem to affect a lot of stuff where there's no reason for them to.
Right.
Like, like to the point where, like, even as a kid when I was first seeing this, like, the fridge is all emptied out and then like the little doggy door is flapping and stuff. I didn't even like put together that, like, they had just been there and emptied out the fridge and left through that door and you just missed them. For me, it was more like, oh, the toys are going nuts and the fridge just went nuts and the doggy door is going nuts. Like they're just like affecting things, like making things, react.
What's really crazy, and I never noticed before, or at least not back when I saw this in 1977. There's at 12 minutes and 29 seconds into the movie, you see an alien move. You see him. You actually see an alien as Barry comes down the stairs. Did neither of you guys see that?
No.
No, I don't have it.
No, wait.
I'm watching right now.
We can stop our little showy poo and.
Oh, you have no idea.
Pete,
you have to go upstairs and get the disc and put it in the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe you. I just don't know what
12.
I don't see it. Where?
I have to go. I have it up here. It's 12 minutes.
While you're looking for it, by the way, I love that he's got a Boston University shirt on.
Yeah.
In my notes, too. Tom's going to say something about kid wearing East Coast College shirt in Indiana. But then I also love
I don't have to say anything.
The feety pajamas. Like, did every kid in the 70s have feety pajamas?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I think so.
And why don't they anymore?
I think because every kid slipped and probably hit that. There's probably like a couple of kids. Every kid slipped. It's like wearing banana peels as pajamas.
Yeah.
Right. Pajama peels.
Pajama peels. Wait, I want you to take a look. Pete, take a look at it. It's 12 minutes, 29 seconds. Yeah. I mean, go to like 12 minutes and 20 seconds or something.
Yeah, I'm at 12:20. He's walking down the stairs. I see the light.
Now you look in the left corner of the screen when the camera changes. Bam.
That's Barry's face. That's his head in the mirror, right?
Oh. Or is it Quint grabbing the lantern?
I'm looking again.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
I'm normally with you. I don't see him, though, Jerry. I see some macrame, which is also peak 70s.
Yeah. That always makes you think of Suzanne Plachette for some reason.
Yeah. I do, too.
Oh, you know what? You might be right. You might be right, Pete. That might be Barry's. I think
it's the top of his head.
Mm.
Yeah.
Nah.
Cut all that.
It's a worthy investigation.
He was one thing I learned about him is that his performance. Spielberg thought his performances were so good that he called him One Take Barry or One Tape Carrie because his name was Carrie Guffey.
Yeah. You know, I wondered when he stands in the kitchen and he sees you can tell that he's looking at the aliens. I was sitting there going, did they bring in like a clown to blow up magic?
Basically, they actually kind of did.
They did.
Yeah,
they literally did.
I was going to say they had to have, right? I mean, because his performance is
They did a
incredible.
bunch
there
of
was
stuff
a-
with him, yeah.
Yeah, there was a clown. One of the
Okay.
producers dressed up as a clown, and one dressed up in a gorilla suit.
Yeah.
And so he looks up and he looks kind of startled,
That's
and
what
he's
it
trying to
was.
figure it out. And then Spielberg told the guy in the gorilla suit to take his head off. And when he takes his head off, that's when Barry kind of smiles and laughs.
Yeah, because he knows the guy. He's like, oh,
Yeah.
it's not a
Okay.
gorilla. It's my
Yeah.
buddy.
Yeah.
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 You know, where is Barry's dad?
Yeah,
we
we
don't
never-
know. He might be in Boston. Like this might be like because like her room especially looks pretty unpacked. She's got all these boxes everywhere and stuff. It almost seems like
Yeah,
they
they've
just
got the
here,
movie
like,
boxes.
Might be
Yeah.
starting over in Muncie, Indiana.
And is she?
Yeah.
You see lots of pills and like cough syrup and stuff on her nightstand too. But she doesn't seem sick. I was wondering if she's a hypochondriac or
Well, no, she took the cough syrup and now she's all better.
she's better
She
now.
nipped it in the bud.
And now she's up. For some reason, I feel like Barry doesn't have a dad.
Well, I mean,
Or his dad's not
he's
in the
not.
picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems like he's not.
Yeah.
Clearly, I think they're divorced or something. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And what's the green light that's next to the mom's bed? You know what I'm talking about? That's a way 70s lamp.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Those were everywhere in the 70s.
yeah, yeah. Everything in this house is just so like everything in this house just takes me right back.
Yeah, because it's like homey
Yeah.
70s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. It looks exactly like a house from Indiana for sure.
Oh, and she's
Yeah.
got that cool wooden chair. It's like downstairs in the living. It's like it's just slats, like coming to a point, sort of. And it's I don't even really like, totally get it, but it's like a cool like almost like a shaped sort of like an Adirondack chair, like a kind of low.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't recline, but you're sort of back anyway, so you don't mind. But it's
Yeah.
cool and weird.
Do you guys remember having to walk down the stairs one step at a time the way Barry did?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
he
Yeah.
puts his his right foot forward and then his left foot just meets his right foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he puts his right foot forward again to go down the one stair, and then his left foot meets his right foot again. I remember having to do that. I was 25
yeah.
Yeah.
and I finally
You had broken your ankle.
I finally learned to go down, two at a time. No, but I totally do. I remember that, and that's what's so great. Like he goes down the stairs like one at a time, just leading with his right foot.
Yeah.
And do you remember having like that 12-inch black and white TV?
Oh God!
wow.
I had I had the pajamas. They were called Dr. Denton's.
I remember
The
that.
pajamas were called Dr. Denton pajamas.
Yeah.